So here we are getting ready for the Canon R5 versus Sony A7R IV Part 2, the studio test. Let's do this. Hey guys, so here we are in Photoshop and I have several documents open that has some of the samples that I did on the studio part of the shoot. So I wanted to start with the high ISO and the details comparisons. I didn't have a lot of time, so I had to rush through the test. So I hope they're still useful. I tried my best to make them fair for both cameras. So let me show you first the resolution one. So this is with the 105 Sigma 1.4. This is f5 right now. And as you can see, it's closer than the 85, even though I tried to push myself farther, but I wasn't right. So obviously the Sony is going to have more details. You can see like textures here because, it's a high resolution camera and a longer lens. So what I did is, it's no point of comparing this one to this one. It's clear that the Sony is better here. So what I did is I just downsized the image on the Sony and put it right here. So we can compare it with the Canon. So now both are the same resolution, aligned. And this is the wrong one. But this is the right one. Okay, so we're going to align this. Sony f5.0 and Canon f5.0. So I tried to match the exposure since I went a bit brighter with the Canon now because I was trying to tweak it because it was lower. So I tried to raise the exposure on the Canon 1. But anyways, I still see right here, for example, with the KR logo, when I switch to the Sony, you can definitely see that it's more detailed. The same thing with the letters that are referenced. Is more defined with the Sony, the 1995. This is obviously it's expected. This is a 61 megapixel camera with no filter, so you expect it to be sharper, and it's not a big deal to me because at 45 megapixels on the Canon, either of these cameras has way more resolution than really needed for many people, and for me, 40 something is already where I was before with the A7R III and A7R II, so I'm very comfortable with that range that the Canon has. So I'm just showing this for the matter of having more data for you guys to see. If you want more detail, then of course get the Sony. It's the obvious choice because of the higher resolution and no filter. But for my work, either camera is gonna do a perfect job. So this to me was a part of the test that wasn't really a focus. So let me show you the high ISO one. So what I did, I took the Canon R5 RAW file at ISO 6400, and I did this same thing with the Sony. So here we go, ISO 6400. I tried to match the exposures, and I think it's close enough. So if we look at some of the same details as before, what I can see is that you can see more detail on the Sony, but also you can see more of the grain. So it's like a trade of a bit more detail, but more visible grain. We scroll down here. Mario, is a big Penguins fan, so you can see right there. It's always a bit more detail on Sony, but then you're getting more noise, so it's a trade-off. You can see clearly here that Sony is going to show more noise. This is Canon. This is Sony. But either one cleans up just fine. When you look at them like this, they're pretty similar. So either one is going to clean up just fine with, high-end denoisers like Topaz or DxO, things like that. So it's not a big deal for me, at least for my type of work. If I'm doing some sort of other type of work when I'm constantly shooting high ISO, maybe I'll consider a different camera. So anyways, you can download these files. I'm going to have them on a link on the description, so you can download all this and go through them all you want. These are resized just so I can fit them better here, but you have them so you can take a look and decide for yourself, clean them up and see how they compare. So for now, I think the high ISO and resolution can be closed. And we can move on to some photos, shall we? So let's start here. This is an example of the raw file from the Canon R5. This is the default converter from the digital photo application. This is the faithful, so you can see the difference from default to faithful is less contrasty, and the skin colors also change, but it's mostly that. And this is neutral, even less contrasty and more tamed, which is kind of like where I normally go with Sony files. I get them like this, but for some people something like this would be better. And for Canon, for example, this will be Capture One. And sorry, let me push this back. So you see the default application from Canon is here, and this is the Capture One result. So it has more contrast, more pop, and it gets me very close to where I need to be in a way. So this is actually what I've been doing with the Canon files. Has mostly been going with the Capture One raw files and then using them for the post-processing. For example, on a photo like this, I did a couple of just clean up of some spot healing there on the forehead, and then I ran my lazy skin finer. Is what I normally use when I want to go through a quick clean up of the skin, and I don't want to go too in depth. Skin finer works really good. And then this is kind of what I would do on a file like this. This is a quick run for you guys. So first, if I want to go with the drama, I'll just hit this up all the way to 100. And then I'll bring the exposure down to about a stop or something like that. About there seems good. Okay, let's see what else we can do here. Let's take the highlights. This is one of the key factors for me here. So usually about 60s to 70s or so, depending on the image. That's looking pretty good. Let's take the shadows, usually around 20 or so, maybe a little bit less. And the whites, I think I'm just gonna leave them there because it's already sparkly. And just the contrast, maybe about 10 or so. Okay, right there. So this is a very quick, post-processing, but this is where it was. This is where it is. So I think it doesn't take very long to make this look really good. To me, this looks very nice already. And I barely touched it, and it was kind of like a rough process that I did there. I mean, I didn't even make a layer or anything. I just tried it up there. So yeah, I think this is a very nice file to work with. Colors are usually maybe a bit on the bluish side, but this can be tweaked, and I kind of enjoy it like this. So there it goes. And I played with it a bit more, and this is what I got from it. Now, as you can see, I tamed down a bit of the skin pinky color and made it a bit like this. So it can vary. Sometimes I feel like I might go a bit bluer, or I like this one better. So, but this is just a good idea of how it turned up from this file to here. So again, you're going to be able to download those 4 files so you can see the different files, how they look with the conversions from the different formats. So let's move to the next file, which is this. So here we got the Canon Capture One raw file, just the conversion, nothing tweaked here. Then we have the Sony. This is also from Capture One. You can see that the Canon tends to like magenta, kind of like cast a little bit, and then Sony looks more yellowish. And it's funny when you're working on one file for a little bit, then you move to the other, it's like, whoa, this is so blue. And then when I'm working on the Canon for a while, I go to the Sony, it's like, whoa, what is wrong with this? So yellow. So I adjust to it, and it gets tricky. So let me show you how the Canon looks after a very quick edit. And I think this quick edit looks really good already. The skin looks very nice. And now let me show you how the Sony looks after a quick edit. So from here to here. So we got the Sony edit, and this is the Canon edit. So after editing, both will be fine for me. I mean, this is a quick edit, of course. I'll go more in depth, but just to show you that after editing, I can be happy with either one to a client. Now, I will need to learn how to make them match a lot closer if I want to be shooting with both cameras for my actual paid job. So that's something I need to really work on, since I'm planning to get an R5 to work with my A7R IV. So you can see that I stretched the background here. So yeah, ignore that. Anyways, you'll be able to get that file as well so you can play with it. So let's move to the next one. Okay, so here we go. Once again, first one is the Canon front capture one. This is the Sony neutral, which was a lot more underexposed. The neutral is like the camera neutral profile from Lightroom, and I'm just tweaking it with a +10 on the tint to remove a little bit of the yellowness or greenness of the conversion, at least for my liking, right? And then this is the Sony camera, the capture one. So capture one, Lightroom conversion. Capture one, Canon. So right off the bat, the exposure on the Canon looks really more set to go. But let's see how it turned out after the quick edit. I mean, it's one of my kind of darkish, dramatic edits, and it was quick, but still looks really good to me. And the steps were very similar to what I showed on the other image, just in case you're wondering. And if I ever want to get a more in-depth on how I do those edits, just let me know. I'll do a quick video about it. And let's show how the Sony neutral Lightroom looks. So this is Sony with the neutral preset. Another quick edit. So you can see how they go from one extreme to the other, like more bluish. You can always see it on the grays here, and then Sony takes it to the other side. So sometimes if I do a white balance, it may look like it's closer to what the Sony is showing than what the Canon is showing, but sometimes my eyes, I lean towards this kind of blue, a little bit more blue color. So it depends on the image and on how I feel that particular day, but I tend to levitate more towards the Canon side of the color right now. But with the edits, I can make them look really close, so it's not a big deal. Just comment and know which one my style of preference. And this is the capture one edit, how I edit it. So the capture one, to me, this one wasn't as good as what I got from Sony and the Canon. Now the Canon, I will probably tame a little bit of the blue, a bit closer to this one, and this one I will get a bit closer to the Canon. So it's always like I'm looking for the mid step between the two. So anyways, this is the Canon, this is the Sony neutral, this is how I ended from here to here, and this is the capture one, how we ended from here to here. Okay, let's move to the next one. This one is just edits, there are no raw files. I just wanted to give you a quick glance of this particular shot. This is the Canon, of course, the quick edit. This is the Sony capture one quick edit. This one I actually like that skin color, pretty nice. And then my model says that's what she feels her skin color is more like, not so pinky like this, more a pink cast, but more like this. And then this is the Lightroom one. So here we get Lightroom one, which is the one that I'm leaning to lately for my Sony, versus the Canon. So Canon and Sony. I will probably give a little bit more saturation on the skin on the Sony, because I got used to seeing this one, and then this one seems to be lacking a bit of saturation. But either of these images will be fine with me. I like the color here too. And the capture one is a bit of the third place, even though it has its own look. But I would love to know what you guys think about all the samples. You just make a comment. You can see the numbers on the top here, hopefully, if you're looking on a big screen, or otherwise just download the files and just tell me, in particular, 174, I prefer this or that. Just let me know, because I'm very curious about what you feel about the different images. And of course, this is also based on my quick edits. You have the raw files there as well, so you can do your own edits and come up with probably better products than I did, because I'm very new to dealing with Canon raw files. So Somebody with experience might be able to get much better images than I'm getting, but hopefully this is still helpful. So let's move to the next one. So here we have another Canon Capture One RAW, Sony Capture One RAW, and as always, it goes from this. You can see in the grays, it's kind of like a bluey gray. And this one is more a bit of a green gray, or maybe a bit more neutral, but it's hard to tell because after I get used to this, it makes this looks just kind of odd. And then let's see how the Canon does when I did the quick edit. And I think that looks great to me. I went a bit more dramatic on this one. From here to here, I really like this photo. It looks pretty dramatic with the lighting in the face. These were all done with constant LED because I did not get the transmitter for my Godox light. So it's not exactly how I shoot. I normally like to shoot with my strobes and be more dramatic, but I've been shooting on the garage because of COVID. It's get more air, and because of that, I don't have as much control of the light, of course. So with the strobe, it was more limiting. I couldn't get the drama lights that I would like to get on camera because I didn't have the power to completely kill the ambient light and do the shoot. So I had to do a lot of post-processing to get me the drama that I like. But I like the photo. And here we have the Sony neutral one. So got the Sony with a neutral profile, quick edit, and the Canon. And the Sony, I went a bit too far with the highlights here and kind of like remove all the color from the skin. I think I got a better result from the Canon overall, at least in terms of shadow on the face and more vibrancy. But I could correct that if I do a less quick rough edit as I was doing. And for reference, this is the Capture One. One is not anywhere. I thought I had it here. I guess I didn't. Anyways, we have again Canon and the Sony. Okay, so here we go to the last comparison image. So here we have the Canon from the raw file, and I wanted to try this one because it was very overexposed and looks pretty bad. And this is the Canon from the Capture One, which kind of like removes that pink tint that it has on the face, makes it more natural to me at least, even though then the background seems to get a different cast that wasn't here on the original. So this is all my observations, of course. Now here we have the Sony neutral, which suddenly looks so different, right? You go from this to this, is complete opposites. And then this is the Sony Capture One, which kills a bit of that and makes it more towards the yellowish face, but it seems like the gray becomes more gray-green. Hard to tell. So how did the Canon turn out on my quick edit? Pretty good, I say. I went from this to this. For the quick edit, I'm very happy with how it looks. How did the Sony look? Sony neutral. So we go from the Sony neutral with the olive kind of skin color that the model likes to a more pinkish color. So I will probably remove a bit of the cast that this one has and get it a bit closer to this one, and the opposite on this one maybe. Like I said before, it's always like I feel like I'm finding a way between the two cameras at a point that I'm happy with the results for both. Now if I have to pick one, it'll be hard because I always tend to like this more bluish kind of tint or magenta or whatever you want to call it. But then when I get used to this, it gives like a softness or something that I like about the colors too, and like a particular cast to it that make me like it too. So, you know, it's like one moment I like one, and then the moment I like the other one more. But I would love to hear your opinion, so let me know. And this is the Capture One edit, which turns out pretty good too on this one. So you can make it work with any of them. It's just a matter of, you know, learning how each one of the results need to be handled on post-processing to get what you want. So I don't think there's a huge difference between them, but just for reference again, here's the Canon, here's how the edit turned out. here's the Sony, and this is how the edit turned out. As you can see, the cast was removed. I tweaked it, but then also changed the color on the outfit. And then here's the capture one, and then the edit. So I think all the things that I'm seeing here, I'm really liking the output that I get from all of them for the most part. It's always tricky to find a way to match them perfectly, and that's why my biggest challenge right now, as I plan to get an R5 and add it to my tools, is how to implement it in a way that is seamless, or as seamless as possible in my work when I'm presenting something to a client, that they don't say like, why did this one look different than this one? So that's one of the challenges that I'm going to be tackling. But as soon as I get it, I'm going to make a video about it and see how I progress. And if I get a way where I can get it perfect between the two, I'll make a video tutorial on how I did it, just in case somebody else is trying to do the same. And here I wanted to just give you a couple of extra tests that I did. This is just very rushed, so it's not perfect, but just testing how the Sony A7R IV does IF, how it compares to the Canon during video. So you can see the Sony here is doing pretty fine. And this is just not video, it's just like just looking at the model coming back into the frame. That delayed a little bit there, but I don't think that will be much of a problem. So it did fairly okay. And now we have the Canon, and let's see how it does. And one thing I noticed about the Canon is that the square on the eye is very smooth. The way it rotates and rests the model, it's like the frame rate is higher on the Sony, which gives like an impression of being very fast. And look at that. The moment she comes up back out of the frame, it just snaps on it really quick, which is very impressive. Now this is an extremely low light scene. I just wanted to see how the Canon will do, and I was stunned to see how the autofocus keeps finding me, even though this was super low light. Trust me, you don't shoot in these conditions, but it's still impressive how it can actually track you. Now on the opposite side, the Sony actually totally failed to find my eye. I mean, it has some glimpses finding it, but in the same conditions as the Canon, in this particular extremely low light situation, the Sony just found the face, which of course means that if I'm wide open, the face might not be enough to get the eyes in focus, for example. So again, this was ridiculously low light, but I wanted to see what it could do, and the Canon just, totally destroyed the Sony. As you can see, Sony just got a little bit of it, but it wasn't nearly as close to the Canon. And I used the 135 1.8 just to have a native glass, just to make sure it wasn't a Sigma related thing, being the third-party lens. And yeah, it finds the eye here and there, but the Canon was just tracking it all the time. But unfortunately, this was the part of the test where the Canon just failed on me. And this is low light, but it's not super low light. So you can see the Canon here and tracking the eye focus, and it's finding Winnie Pooh just fine. And that's perfect, as expected. But looks what happens when I turn backlit setup for it. This is just a Rotolight Neo 2, by the way. The moment I turn that light on, the Canon just is unable to find the eye. And this is similar to what I experienced doing cross-light setups, where you just wouldn't see the eye for some reason. And I experienced that doing some of the outdoors backlit shots. So this worries me because I shoot like that often, and hopefully Canon can release a firmware to fix that, because it's the only weakness that I really saw. Besides that time where it failed 5 times to get the focus on the full body shot outdoor, I'm gonna count that as a glimpse, as just a fluke. And here we got the Sony. This is with the 135 1.8. Just using native glass first, or third-party glass first, and you can see it's finding the eye just fine for Winnie. And I'm gonna turn the backlit same as it was with the Canon, and the Sony has zero issue. It's fine. The eye is just fine. Now, just in case, because it's closer, because it's a longer lens, I figure you may want to see how it does with a third-party shorter lens like the 105. So I'm going to do that test next. So here you go. I'm going to change lenses and we'll do the same test. Again, only two things concern me right now about the Canon autofocus, and it's that time on the outdoor shoot where it fails too many times on the full body shots. And you can see here, this is the Sigma 105mm, having no issue either with the backlit. So as I was saying, that time outdoors where it failed during the full body shots, and this backlit and cross light like situations where it's unable to find the eye are the only concern that I have on the autofocus. Once again, I grabbed the Canon here. Sorry, the autofocus setting was a manual focus on my camera, so you can see, but I'm just getting close to Winnie Pooh or farther and see if it finds the eye somewhere. But as you can see, it's just never able to find the eye when it's on the backlit situation. And the moment I turn off the backlit, everything comes back just fine. Well, you will see it if I can put it in the camera. Terrible job here with the camera, but trust me, it's finding the eye now. But anyways, hopefully Canon will release a firmware to fix this, because really it's the only weaknesses that I'm finding. But unfortunately, for people that shoot like this, having issues with backlit or split lighting, that could be a deal breaker. Okay, so this concludes part 2, the studio test. And coming up soon, we have Iron Spider photoshoot behind the scenes. So if you want to see that video and get the notification when it gets posted, just subscribe and hit that bell icon, please. So regarding my experience with the Canon R5, this is the first time in a very long time that I'm excited about a Canon product. And the R5 is a great camera, even though I only have a day to do the shoot and a day before that to play with it. So I cannot make a lot of comments about how it behaves under pressure, like taking a lot of photos with all the overheating comments around. How does it feel just to do a whole photo shoot with it? So I will reserve that kind of a comment until I get my own R5. But I guess you can tell that I was impressed enough that I would like to get an R5 for myself and have it with my Sony and see how I can make them play together and you know, do the job that I need for my clients. I think that one of the weird things that I didn't like about the Canon is the horrible way of setting white balance. It just feels so out of place for a camera with so many advanced features that they have this outdated way of doing the white balance. So I hope that they fix that and give us something more up to the standards of these days. It might be a minor grip. I shoot RAW anyway, so I can fix in post. But I always like to kind of like set up the white balance in camera as well, so that I'm reviewing the cameras and get a better, closer idea of what I'm getting. So just found it weird that the white balance is with a photo, and then you just pick the photo that you want for it. With the Sony, for Canon users that are not familiar with it, basically you have like a white point in the center that you point to a white target, and you just push the button and it sets it up. So anyways, I'm looking forward to getting my own so I can do more in-depth videos and tutorials and whatnot. So please guys, download the files on the description. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, subscribe, like, share. The more you share, the more you comment, the more YouTube algorithms are gonna push my videos up, and the more subscribers that I get, you know, helps me grow the channel. And when my channel grows, that means that I have more influence in getting gear from other companies to allow me to test. So that's the only way I can grow, if you guys subscribe and comment on my videos, because I'm more than happy to do a lot more testing. It's hard to me to get my hands on a lot of gear. So when a company like Lens Rental, for example, helped me out in this case, I really, really appreciate that they did that, and otherwise I wouldn't be able to test the Canon. So remember to use my LG photo code if you're gonna rent for Lens Rental. That's the way they can track the performance. So that's it for today. Stay tuned for that behind the scenes photo shoot coming up next. And thank you for watching.